On October 27, 1994, just days before Halloween, a girl named Sabrina was born on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio. Her life began in darkness, marked by alcoholic and abusive parents, leading her into the unforgiving arms of the foster care system. It was not until Lisa Canfield, a compassionate social worker, took her under her wing that a glimmer of hope emerged. Lisa Canfield, specializing in cases of sexual abuse, provided Sabrina with a nurturing home filled with love. With 2 caring parents and 2 supportive sisters, Sabrina believed she had finally found a family and a promising future. But her dream of a bright future shattered on August 6, 2014, when Sabrina found herself on trial for the brutal murder of her own foster mother, Lisa. In a courtroom filled with tension, the prosecutor held up a knife, asking, "Do you recognize this weapon?" The prosecutor's words cut through the silence, detailing how, with incredible force, Sabrina had bent the stainless steel knife at a 20-degree angle during the attack. Just 2 years prior to this moment, police had arrested her within the very home meant to be her sanctuary. Holding a bloodied knife, Sabrina had been found at the scene where Lisa Canfield lay dead. As news broke, the community was left in shock. A mere 18 years old, Sabrina was now in custody, her actions completely unrecognizable to those who knew her. "I can't see the Sabrina I know being violent towards anyone," a close friend lamented. The implications were dire, and as investigators sought the truth, their only other lead pointed to Kevin Canfield, the victim's husband and Sabrina's foster father. "We're just trying to piece together what happened that night," investigators noted, as the gravity of the situation settled in. Kevin, however, seemed withdrawn, as if a dark secret loomed in the shadows. "Feel free to talk. He's not aware of something," an officer urged, redirecting the focus. "What about your relationship with Sabrina?" Though Kevin remained tight-lipped, the truth was lurking just beyond reach. Megan Zanella, Sabrina's foster sister, had been present during the harrowing incident and held pieces of the puzzle that could unravel the mystery. 911, what's your emergency?" Megan's voice trembled as she identified herself as the daughter of Lisa Canfield, anxious and desperate for help. "This is my first interview, and I've been waiting for this day since my mom passed away after I called 911, she recalled, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Megan had waited in agonizing fear for 6 long minutes before the sirens finally pierced the silence. She had fought desperately against Sabrina, but at only 13 she was no match for the chaos. "I rushed outside to meet them," she recounted, her heart racing. The arrival of the police brought confusion and terror. "They pointed a gun at me because they thought I was Sabrina," she said, recalling how she waved her hands, pleading, "You need to hurry, hurry, hurry." The worst thoughts flooded her mind as she braced for what awaited inside. After clearing the misunderstanding, officers entered the residence, calling out for Sabrina and Lisa. Their voices echoed in the eerie silence that enveloped the home until they stepped into the first room beyond the stairs and came face to face with the unimaginable. Sabrina stood there, a vision of horror covered in blood, knife still gripped tightly in her hand. "It was a very tense couple of seconds," one officer recalled. "I could see blood on the blade. I could see blood on her." They shouted at her to drop the weapon, the urgency palpable. In a moment that felt suspended in time, Sabrina met the officer's gaze, seemingly entranced, before finally throwing the knife aside and raising her hands in surrender as the officer's partner moved in to restrain her. Randy Mullinax, the officer on the scene, approached Lisa's bed and was met with a chilling sight. "I could barely even see. It looked like she had literally showered in blood," he stated, the grim reality sinking in. There was nothing he could do to save her. As Sabrina was led outside, Randy began to clear the room, but then he heard something that sent chills down his spine. "I could hear a child crying from my left," he reported. Rushing to the source, he opened the door of a closet, revealing a small child in distress. It was Haley Canfield, Megan's little sister, who had crawled into the closet in a desperate attempt to escape the horror unfolding. Later, as the investigation deepened, Sabrina would attempt to feign ignorance, claiming she couldn't remember anything about that fateful night. Overwhelmed by emotion, Amy struggled to contain her feelings as detectives brought in Haley and Megan. She recalled the chilling moment when she realized the gravity of the situation. "Unless you had a knife you stabbed," she thought, grappling with disbelief. Before delving deeper into the tragic story of Lisa Canfield, It's essential to understand her connection with Sabrina. The two first encountered each other during Lisa's work as a social worker. In that brief interaction, Lisa felt an overwhelming empathy for the troubled teenager. At just 16 years old, Sabrina had endured a tumultuous life, devoid of stability and loving foster parents. She yearned for normalcy and a sense of belonging. Lisa, believing she and her husband Kevin could provide the nurturing environment Sabrina desperately needed, made a pivotal decision. Lisa was no stranger to fostering children. As she recalls the day they picked up Sabrina, she remembers a kind, hopeful girl who she believed could become a big sister figure for her own daughters. Sabrina, with her background in counseling, seemed poised to thrive. For over a year, Sabrina integrated seamlessly into the Canfield family, particularly bonding with her foster sisters, Megan and Haley. Even Kevin, Lisa's husband and Megan's stepfather, initially welcomed Sabrina into their home. However, as time passed, Kevin began to isolate himself, spending more time alone with Sabrina, neglecting his family. Concerned about the growing distance, Lisa attempted to reach out to Kevin through text messages, voicing her fears. Yet he dismissed her worries, insisting that she was overreacting. Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss between Sabrina and Kevin. With her professional background in Job and family services, specifically in the sex division, Lisa harbored suspicions about Kevin's intentions. Knowing Sabrina's history of instability, Lisa feared for her foster daughter's safety. Kevin seemed to prey on Sabrina's vulnerabilities, embodying a predator lurking in plain sight. In Lisa's eyes, he was no better than the abusers she had encountered in her line of work. Unable to substantiate her fears, Lisa contemplated divorce and the prospect of returning Sabrina to foster care. However, Kevin insisted on waiting until Sabrina graduated high school before making any drastic decisions. In the interim, Lisa grew increasingly strict with Sabrina, imposing rules to keep her safe from Kevin's advances. This protective instinct morphed into isolation as Lisa began to distance Sabrina from her sisters, creating an atmosphere fraught with tension. Tensions escalated between Lisa and Sabrina, as well as between Sabrina and Megan. As the situation deteriorated, Megan couldn't have anticipated how far it would spiral out of control. One morning, just before Kevin left for work, Sabrina hugged him and whispered something in his ear, a moment that struck Megan as unsettling. Megan, observing from the sidelines, noticed an alarming frequency of text messages exchanged between Sabrina and someone unknown. During dinner and late into the night, she could hear her foster sister's phone buzzing incessantly. Then, at 1 a.m., the ominous sound ceased, only to be replaced by a deafening scream that shattered the night. Alarmed by the piercing cries, Megan rushed downstairs, her heart racing. What she discovered was a scene that would haunt her forever. Sabrina was attacking her mother, Lisa, with a knife. In a desperate attempt to intervene, she shouted, "Get off of her!" But Sabrina forcefully shoved her aside. As dinner faded into the evening, a sense of unease crept into the house. Even past her bedtime, Sabrina could hear her foster sister's phone buzzing incessantly from the next room. Then, at 1 a.m., the noise abruptly ceased, replaced by a piercing scream that shattered the stillness of the night. Megan Zanella, Sabrina's foster sister, recounted the horrifying moment. The sound of screaming jolted her from her thoughts, compelling her to investigate. As she descended the stairs, the sight that met her eyes was unimaginable. There stood Sabrina, viciously stabbing their mother, Lisa Canfield. In a desperate attempt to save her, Megan shouted, "Get off of her!" She lunged at Sabrina, but was forcefully shoved aside. In a moment of sheer panic, Megan rushed into the office area and dialed 911. At just 13, she struggled to articulate the terrifying situation unfolding before her. While battling against her sister Sabrina, she cried out, pleading for help. "Call 911! 911! What's your emergency? What's going on? Who has the knife?" The operator's calm voice cut through the chaos. "My sister," Megan managed to utter, her voice trembling. "Okay. Does she still have it? Are you okay? What happened?" The frantic exchange continued for over 6 agonizing minutes. As the horrifying reality sunk in, Megan faced her worst nightmare. "I have trouble sleeping every night," she later confessed, haunted by relentless flashbacks. After Sabrina's arrest, Megan was taken to a hospital, nursing numerous stab wounds inflicted during the horrific attack. In the aftermath, Lisa and Megan's desperate attempts to defend themselves led to injuries on Sabrina's hands. Once stabilized, the police wasted no time in bringing her back to the station, eager to conduct the first interview. Their primary objective was to uncover the truth behind the shocking events. Emerging from the scene, Sabrina was caught in a web of suspicion, and the detectives sought to unravel the mystery. "What do you recall from yesterday?" they pressed. "I don't know," was her only response, a chilling deflection of accountability. For over an hour, Sabrina insisted she had no memory of the tragic events, claiming she blacked out after taking too many ibuprofen. She awoke in the hospital, bewildered and distant from the reality of her actions. Yet, Detective Parmenter, a seasoned investigator, sensed deception lurking beneath her fragile facade. His instincts kicked in as he observed her behavior. The first indication of her anxiety was an uncharacteristic itch on her forehead, a common sign of discomfort in those who lie. Fidgeting and tapping her toes, she revealed her nervousness, confirming the detective's suspicions. Despite the mounting evidence of her deceit, the detective struggled to extract concrete information from Sabrina. Her consistent denial and calm demeanor raised alarm bells among the officers present, prompting them to urge an investigation despite the initial reluctance. Parmenter, however, could not dismiss the oddity of a suspect maintaining complete denial while being caught in the act. In a bid for clarity, he summoned Kevin to the station for questioning, hoping to shed light on the chaotic night. To Parmenter's surprise, Kevin arrived with a demand for his attorney's presence. Michael Connick, representing Kevin, refused to allow his client to speak without legal counsel. To draw them into the investigation, Parmenter crafted a ruse, suggesting they would discuss Lisa's work. "How are you doing? Rob Armstrong, Rob McCann, nice to meet you. How are you doing, Kevin? You told me you wanted to talk about your wife's work, correct?" Parmenter began, attempting to set the tone. "Subject matter?" Kevin replied, his confusion evident. "Kevin, do you know anything that was happening at the house the night before you left for work?" Parmenter pressed, sensing a shift in the conversation. "Hang on a second. We just talked about discussing his wife's work. What's going on at the house the night before?" Despite the initial intent, the focus shifted dramatically. "You know his wife was brutally murdered here. Were you and Lisa in the process of going through a divorce?" The atmosphere thickened as Kevin bristled at the probing questions. The police could not ignore the peculiar dynamic at play. Why was Kevin evading their inquiries? Why was Michael acting defensively on his client's behalf? The tension escalated, and Parmenter's instincts tingled with suspicion. What truly caught Parmenter off guard was the reaction from Kevin and Michael when Sabrina's name entered the discussion. Until that moment, the detective had been unaware of the unsettling relationship between Kevin and Sabrina. "You can feel free to talk. He's not worried about it," Parmenter suggested, sensing the tension. "How about your relationship with Sabrina?" he asked directly. "No, Kevin, no," Michael interjected, attempting to shield his client. In the days that followed, Kevin's furtive glances towards Megan revealed his underlying tension and concern. Before her father could move her out of the house, the 13-year-old found herself caught in a whirlwind of events that made her question her stepfather's role in the tragic events of November 16th. The very next day, she witnessed her stepfather disposing of her mother's belongings. Lisa had just been murdered. This was no slow decline from cancer. It was cold-blooded murder, taking place just hours after her death. Kevin Canfield was on the phone with his insurance company, but his actions were anything but innocent. He had previously canceled his own insurance coverage, as well as that of his 2 children, transferring all of it to Lisa. This decision gave her quadruple coverage just 6 months before her untimely death. When he hung up, he had pocketed over $785,000. On the morning of her murder, Kevin accessed that money. Shock washed over the witness. It was an astonishing sum, and he squandered it almost immediately. He bought cars, a camper, and invested in remodeling his home, all funded by Lisa's insurance payout. Throughout the week following the murder, Kevin attempted to visit Sabrina in jail daily, but each time he was turned away. In the shadows of this bizarre behavior, Megan found herself questioning his motives. But the oddity did not stop there. The very next day, he brought an axe into her mother's bedroom, the same bed where Lisa had been brutally stabbed. He began chopping it up, an act that struck Megan as deeply peculiar. Even after reuniting with her biological father, Megan's suspicions about Kevin only grew stronger. Each encounter revealed more unsettling behavior. At her mother's funeral, he shockingly urged the mourners to pray for Sabrina, the very person accused of the murder they were there to mourn. Megan watched him intently that day, feeling an icy certainty creeping into her mind. She recalled, "I looked over at Kevin. He showed no emotion. It was as if my mom had never existed. Your wife was murdered, and you haven't shed a tear. That's strange and suspicious, and I knew he was involved." As time passed, the case grew cold, and both Megan and Detective Parmenter suspected Sabrina was responsible, but were left in the dark regarding the motives. The strange demeanor of Kevin since Lisa's murder weighed heavily on their minds. It was then that Sabrina, still in custody, chose to speak with Karen Cowell, her case prosecutor, through a legal process known as a proffer. A proffer represents a crucial opportunity for both the defense attorney and prosecution to meet with the suspect and gather information under the promise of good faith. As Detective Parmenter and Cowell delved deeper, it became evident that Sabrina might have been trying to shield someone when she claimed to have blacked out during the attack, even while confined to her cell. Overwhelmed with remorse for her actions, Sabrina's concern for her foster family never waned. This prompted Cowell to confront her directly during the proffer interview. "From what we've gathered, we believe that there was another party involved in planning this murder," she stated, identifying Kevin Canfield as the potential mastermind. Kevin appeared to fit the profile of a manipulator, a sexual predator who seeks to cultivate trust with an underage victim to prepare them for abuse. His actions were chilling, and the investigation was only just beginning. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that this tragedy was not a spontaneous act of violence. Evidence suggested the involvement of another party in the planning of the murder. Kevin Canfield, Sabrina's foster father, emerged as a significant figure in this dark conspiracy. Kevin was painted in a chilling light, a groomer, a sexual predator who ensnared young girls with a facade of trust, only to prepare them for unimaginable abuse. His manipulative tactics often involved showering his victims with attention, luring them into his twisted world. In a calculated approach, Kevin Canfield showered the impressionable 17-year-old Sabrina with gifts and secrets, carefully crafting a bond that left her feeling special and utterly dependent on him. He promised her that he would facilitate her entry into a masochistic therapy school, suggesting that she should practice on him. It wasn't long before his true intentions began to surface, leading to a dark manipulation. Every moment they spent alone together became an opportunity for exploitation. Following an emergency appendectomy where her appendix had burst, Sabrina found herself recovering in a hospital bed. It was there, in that vulnerable state, that Kevin took advantage of her, engaging in sexual relations shortly after her surgery. The thought of it churned the stomach of everyone who learned of the incident. Sabrina recalled that Kevin frequently warned her not to disclose their encounters, his chilling words echoing in her mind. "You can't tell anybody about this," he would insist. Whenever she dared to question the consequences of revealing his actions, he ominously replied, "Then you'd be taken out of my care, and I could lose my foster parent license." This manipulation tightened his grip on her day by day. As the year unfolded, Kevin's control deepened. Following each sexual encounter, he twisted the narrative, spinning tales about his wife, Lisa. He led Sabrina to believe that their only chance at a future together lay in eliminating Lisa. Slowly, he poisoned her thoughts, convincing her that the only viable path was to take drastic action. Kevin wanted a divorce, but the presence of Haley, his 3-year-old daughter with Lisa, complicated his desires. In a moment of desperation, he made a chilling declaration. "I'm going to kill myself because I can't deal with this anymore." This statement triggered something within Sabrina, igniting a sense of urgency and fear. She didn't want to see him harmed and felt cornered by his manipulation. "Okay, I'll do it." She found herself agreeing to the unthinkable. Kevin's reasoning was twisted. He wouldn't kill Lisa himself because then Haley would be left without a father. Instead, he convinced Sabrina that she could carry out the act, assuring her that she wouldn't be caught. He instructed her to stage the scene as if a burglar had broken in, suggesting she take Lisa's jewelry to cover up the crime. However, the plan unraveled in a horrifying manner. As Sabrina approached, Lisa woke up to see her foster daughter standing frozen at her bedside, the reality of her situation dawning upon her. In a moment of blind rage, Sabrina attacked her foster mother, caught in a whirlwind of emotion as Lisa and Megan fought back. "Why did you stop?" Sabrina's mind raced, realizing this was spiraling out of control. "It's too late now. I'm going to jail anyway. It doesn't matter. Just get it done, she thought, gripped by panic. The weight of her actions crashed down on her as she faced the reality of the horrific choice she had made. What was I thinking? She would reflect later, her heart racing with disbelief at her own actions. Detectives Cowell and Parmenter were initially skeptical of her account, wary that Sabrina might have fabricated her story. However, instead of exhibiting the typical signs of deceit, Sabrina displayed newfound confidence and assertiveness, recounting her story with chilling consistency. She even revealed that someone else was aware of the plot, her high school friend, Autumn Pavlik. The detectives decided to pay Autumn a visit, hoping to uncover more about Sabrina's claims. In a moment of reflection, Sabrina admitted, "Why did you stop?" Realizing the gravity of her situation, she understood that this wasn't going according to her plan. "It's too late now. I'm going to go to jail anyway. It doesn't matter. Just get it done," she conveyed as she acknowledged the irreversible path she had chosen. Autumn felt compelled to intervene. "If I can talk her out of it, maybe I can stop this," she thought, wishing to shield her friend from Kevin's manipulation. However, the police were concerned. Since Kevin had already confided in Autumn about his plans, they feared he might do so again if she confronted him directly. In a strategic move, the detectives wired Autumn and prepared her to meet Kevin, hoping to gather crucial evidence that could bring the unfolding tragedy to a halt before it was too late. The stage was set for a confrontation that could change everything. It emerged that Sabrina had confided in a friend about the sinister plot. Autumn Pavlik, her high school confidant, was not only aware but had been anticipating the police's arrival. When investigators knocked on her door, she greeted them with a chilling, "I've been expecting you guys." Autumn recounted how Kevin had manipulated Sabrina, saying, "Are you surprised that he was also talking to you about that?" Upon hearing his voice, she realized the gravity of the situation. Determined to intervene, she thought, "If I can talk her out of it, maybe it won't happen." Aware of Kevin's prior discussions with Autumn, the police took precautions. They equipped the 17-year-old with hidden audio devices and sent her to confront him, hoping to catch him in the act of manipulation once more. When the accusation of murder pierced the atmosphere, Kevin Canfield remained eerily silent. He faced the claim that he had conspired with his foster daughter to kill his wife, yet he neither denied nor reacted to the explosive allegation. One might expect a man accused of such heinous acts to protest vehemently, to shout, "What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about." But Kevin's stillness spoke volumes. Equipped with the damning testimonies of Sabrina and Autumn, Detective Parmenter wasted no time in pursuing justice. He swiftly secured an arrest warrant, leading a team to Kevin Canfield's home where they apprehended him. It was a peculiar scene, as Kevin lay in Sabrina's room at the time of his arrest, a detail that would haunt the investigation. Once in custody, the police were eager to glean the truth from Kevin. They confronted him directly, stating, "We have a lot of facts regarding your involvement in this case." They pressed him for details about his relationship with Sabrina and Lisa, weaving a web of suspicion around him. Frustration mounted as the detectives sought further clarity. They implored Sabrina to delve deeper into the nature of her relationship with Kevin. It became evident that Kevin was growing uneasy. "Am I supposed to have my lawyer?" he asked, aware of the weight of the evidence against him. The Lake County grand jury soon indicted Kevin Canfield not just for conspiring to kill Lisa, but also for sexual battery, alleging an inappropriate relationship with his foster daughter. The charges were staggering, painting a picture of betrayal and manipulation. In the aftermath of Kevin's arrest, a chilling scene unfolded. Sabrina's friend, Megan Zanella, recalled the moment she saw her mother's face on the news. Hearing the news of her father's arrest left her frozen, devoid of emotion. "Really?" she had asked, grappling with the unfathomable reality. At trial, 12 witnesses took the stand, each providing insight into Kevin's suspicious behavior following the murder. From teachers and social workers to friends and family, they painted a portrait of a man who seemed to revel in his sinister secrets. Even Kevin's best friend, David Strunk, testified against him, revealing unsettling details that would haunt the courtroom. David recounted how Kevin had insisted on showing him suggestive modeling photos of Sabrina, his demeanor unsettling. He had talked of visiting her in jail, expressing a desire to reassure her that he was still there for her. A chilling notion considering the gravity of his actions. It left David in shock. Megan reflected on this disconcerting behavior, noting that Kevin seemed detached from the horror he had inflicted. This was the person who had just killed his wife, she thought, grappling with the twisted reality that he sought to maintain a connection with Sabrina. After hours of deliberation, the jury delivered their verdict. Guilty of sexual battery, guilty of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. The weight of the charges hung heavily in the air, a testament to the deep betrayal that had unfolded. In an interview with Karen Kowal, the case prosecutor, journalist Josh Mankiewicz reflected on the verdict. "This is really just betrayal on top of betrayal," he remarked, highlighting the complex web of deceit woven between Kevin, Sabrina, and Lisa. Each betrayal layered upon the last, creating a tragic tapestry of broken trust. Yet amidst this circle of betrayal, Megan emerged as the most profound victim. Forced to witness the attack and powerless to save her mother, she bore the heaviest emotional burden. The trauma would haunt her for a lifetime. With tears in her eyes, Megan confessed, "If I had to pick one emotion, I would say angry." Her anger stemmed from the loss of a mother who had dedicated her life to helping others, now cruelly taken away. It was a loss that felt unbearable and unjust, a chilling reminder of the horrors that had transpired. In a poignant reflection, a journalist noted the tragic irony of betrayal in this story. Yet, amidst the chaos, no one suffered more than Megan. Forced to witness the brutal attack, she fought valiantly to save her mother but was met with despair and helplessness. Now, Megan bore the weight of that trauma, a haunting memory etched deep within her. "If I had to pick one emotion, I would say angry," she admitted, her voice trembling with fury. "I am very angry that someone who was helping so many people and doing their best for their family is gone. It is awful." In a moment of haunting clarity, Sabrina acknowledged the gravity of her actions, asserting that she deserved to serve time for the justice that her victims warranted. She pled guilty to all charges and, like her accomplice Kevin, was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole until 2042. In a courageous stand, Haley and Megan filed civil suits against them in 2017. The court awarded them over $6 million in damages, a sum Sabrina learned of from her jail cell at Dayton Correctional. Since her incarceration, she has participated in interviews, first with Dateline in 2015 and then with HLN in 2020. In those interviews, she expressed a desperate plea for forgiveness from her former foster sisters, revealing, "I realized that there's more than one victim in this story. If I had a chance, I would tell them that I was selfish, that I'm sorry, and that I never meant to hurt them." Sabrina's remorse was palpable as she grappled with her actions, acknowledging the weight of her words. "And I know how can I say that when I killed their mother. I was in a place where I wasn't thinking about anybody but myself, and that was wrong. It doesn't make it right." Her admission continued, laden with sorrow. "I know no matter what I say, I can't bring her back, and I can't undo what's already been done. If it means anything, I truly do apologize. Sorry will never be enough for the act that I did." Sabrina's haunting reflection on the pain she inflicted was evident as she lamented, "The pain I go through every day knowing that my mom is not there to see me get married and have kids, you took that away from me." In the wake of Sabrina and Kevin's conviction, Megan matured into a resilient and independent woman. While she may never find it in her heart to forgive her former sister, Megan transformed her adversity into purpose, pursuing a degree in criminal law with the hope of bringing justice and reparations to other survivors of violent crimes. Today, Megan embodies the desire to help others, a legacy she shares with her mother. She just wanted to help people, make a difference.